What do Andy Warhol, Winston Churchill, and Einstein all have in common? Not only were they all great men, but they all suffered from mental illnesses. Andy Warhol was a hoarder. In fact, one of his most famed art exhibits is just a collection of boxes. And inside is a hodgepodge of items from pizza crust, old movie stubs, and he even throws in pearl necklaces. Winston Churchill suffered from bipolar disorder, and Albert Einstein exhibited many of the traits that you see on the autism spectrum. And although they suffered with these difficulties their entire lives, it also contributed to many of their strengths and essential personality traits. In her book, Andy Warhol Was a Hoarder, Inside the Minds of History's Great Personalities, Claudia Kolb says, "In many ways, historical figures are no saner or zanier than you or I. While their public lives may be the fodder for books, movies, and splashy headlines, in their personalities, you can see many of the same traits that you see in your friends, your children, your spouses, even in yourself. In society, there's a lot of taboo around mental illness. Even little children know that it's an insult to call someone crazy. But if you think about it, you can see a lot of those same traits in yourselves. I mean, are you one of those people who obsessively and compulsively has to correct when somebody says your versus your? Or has to have the toilet paper unraveled just the right way or else it's wrong? Or maybe you're a digital hoarder. Are you able to delete any of those 10,000 mundane pics that are clogging up your hard drive? Or maybe you have difficulty focusing. Do you flip back and forth between Facebook, Reddit, and your work projects every 5 minutes? Most people can identify with some traits of mental illnesses. And while there can be some debilitating side effects, separating mental illness from personality traits can be difficult and sometimes even detrimental. In the case of Churchill, his battle with depression gave him the strength to be the leader that England needed in the summer of 1940, when the Germans were incessantly attacking the British Royal Air Force. Any sane leader would have thrown their hands up and thought, the end is near. But not Churchill. He had the ability to glean hope from a hopeless situation. He had the courage that was unbeatable and a personality that could really thrive in situations where he was hemmed up with no real end in sight. And it was that ability to bring emotional reality to the situation that he could tell those words of defiance and rebellion and really buoy up the English people. Einstein, on the other hand, didn't really care much for society in general. His passion for time and space and gravity consumed him, and many people have reported that he seemed to withdraw into himself and disappear into a world of his own when he would think about these things. But when he disappeared into a world of his own, he was able to bring things to our world that greatly changed it. In my own life, dealing with mental illness, when my husband was first diagnosed, or even step back, when he was first exhibiting signs of bipolar disorder, it was a conundrum. He completely changed, and he went from this loving person that I knew to someone who was moody and completely different person. Wasn't sure what to do about the situation, but as I opened up about it and talked about it with my friends and with my family, many people explained experiences that they had had, either having it themselves or knowing someone, and it gave me the strength to continue through the many months that it took to find the right combination of lifestyle changes, medication, and other things that really allowed Daniel to excel. And for myself, growing up, I actually experienced depression as a child. I would erupt into bouts of tears and run into corners and think about ways that I could kill myself. was very young, so they weren't very well thought through ideas. It was usually, oh, I'll bang my head against the fridge, or I'll sit outside until I freeze to death. Thankfully, my mother was able to recognize these signs and get me the help that I needed before I could actually form, really complex suicidal thoughts. But I really do value that experience that I had because it gave me the perspective that even when things are difficult, even when things seem like there are no way out, there's always that gleam of hope. It's actually a fairly controversial opinion to see the positive in mental illness, especially in something like depression, where it can be so severe and have such high risk, like with suicide. But many people have reported in their memoirs of depression that they've gained a lot from it and felt a greater depth, an emotional depth. And I would propose that we shouldn't just acknowledge that mental illness exists and that we all have a little bit of it, but we really should be open about it and embrace it. Because it's not just something to fix, but it's something that brings diversity into our lives and brings that difference. And in the end, we're all a little bit crazy, and it's okay.